Lorna Flowers. I'm a songwriter, producer living in Nashville, and I had a beautiful blueberry guitar which was hand carved with lions on the head, the back, the front. And my guitar was at sound check with Ed Beaver because he was putting a new pickup in it, and he was trying to sell it for me because I've had shoulder problems. It was too big to play. He called me on a Friday and said, "I've got a lady who's interested in buying a guitar. She's going to come in and let me know on Monday." And that was the weekend of the flood. So my guitar was playing Submarines at soundcheck, and so it is now a beautiful coffee table, and I can't remember the name of the artist. I wish I could, but it's now a lovely coffee table with a light, and it's gone to a good home. And Music Cares and Guitar Centre were kind enough to give me a voucher to go spend some money there. It's nowhere near what the value of the guitar was, but it's still a very nice gesture on their part. And Ed Beaver is wonderful. You know, it's one of those things. It's just when you lose a guitar, it's always a sad parting because they're always so nice. And this was just such a beautiful piece of artwork as well. But at least it's now a nice piece of artwork in somebody's house, and I hope they're enjoying it as much as I did when it was a guitar.
Hi, my name's TJ Klay. I live in Madison, Tennessee, and I ended up losing quite a bit of stuff in this flood, and here's kind of how it happened. I was actually scheduled to play for our Music Cares benefit with my buddy Dave Perkins. I play harmonica in his band, and that was supposed to be a couple weeks into May, and so the Friday night before the 1st of May, I was played at a pastor buddy of mine's church in Huntsville, Alabama. Spent most of Saturday with them, and when I came back, it was raining pretty hard, and they started closing interstates down. I had a hard time getting back to my house. My wife was out of town, so when I got home, it was not raining, and we had trickles of water in the basement, which is not uncommon for the way our house is built. And so I stayed up till about 4 in the morning, and 8 o'clock in the morning, the neighbor lady calls and says, "You guys better look outside, you're flooding." And so that call went to my wife's cell phone, who was in California, so that call woke her up at 6 in the morning. She called me and says, "TJ, get out, look outside, and I think we're flooding, and then look in the basement." And I walked onto the patio, standing in the hardest rain I've ever stood in. Her little Miata had been totally underwater and had been picked up and moved into the side of my, I got a Volvo wagon, and the water was over the hood on that car, and I had a lot of music gear in the car. And then I went and looked in the basement, and there was as much water, so we're talking like over the belly button water in the house as there was outside, and I couldn't get the basement door open because there's like 2 monsters pressing against this door. It's kind of hard to know what to do at that point, you know. We ended up, the water went down. I went and got the unlock button before the water was all the way down and hit it, and I realized I just activated the car's electrical system, and I heard it fry in front of me, and I realized, you know, I can't open the door now anyhow because there's, you know, water still at least halfway up over the door at this point. And so it went down. I got this gear out of the car. Was able to finally get the basement door open, and it drained. It seemed like, you know, 3 hours, and there was water still coming out of the house. In the house, it's a walk-in, in a semi-finished off basement that I had amplifiers and microphones and cords. My PA system was down there, all my CD product. So I brought my amps and my guns, put them in the den. Brought in 2 dehumidifiers, turned the ceiling fan on, and another fan I'm blowing right on these amps, and just left them there for about 3 months, and didn't even try and turn anything on. And so oddly enough, a couple weeks ago, I had this one of the amps that was just like totally underwater for I'm not sure how long. Could have been, you know, a couple hours. And it's amazing for me to think that all of this was turning around, you know, maybe 5 to 10 feet under my bed, and I was sound asleep and didn't know any of this was going on. But we got this amp, and I brought it down to Fender, and they just kind of thought, man, this is hopeless. And they turned it on, and I don't know much about the electronic part of it, but none of the caps had to be replaced. The only thing they had to do was put a new speaker in it, and the baffle board where the speakers bolted to had absorbed so much water that it was warped and you couldn't put a new speaker on it. So they put a new baffle board which came with new grill cloth, and so I now have a pre-CBS Princeton Reverb Blackface built in 1965 that looks like a brand new amp, and I saw it and I about cried. It was like walking into a music store back when I was in high school. And I thought, I've had this amp for 35 years, 40 years almost, and I paid $30 for it, and not from the store, but from somebody else who had it, and it's never looked like this. And the PA system was toast. All my CD product that got wet, I slit the shrink wrap on it. I would set it up in like little pup tents. So for a long time, you'd come to our house and the patio would be just look like a little city of pup tents. So I always, when I'm doing a gig and I sell them, I say, no, you can get these in CD Baby and you can get them in iTunes, but you can't get them like this. These are survivors. So my car was toast. My wife's car sat there for almost a month, about 28 days exactly. And a friend of mine who does sound for one of the bands I play with said, hey man, I work on cars, and so I bet you I could get that little thing running. So he came and drained all the fluids, and almost 2 gallons of water came out of the crankcase. And but he got it started, and it was knocking and running really rough, and he took it for a run down the interstate, and just held it about 90 miles an hour for 15-20 minutes and burned all that moisture out. And he came back, it was like purring like a kitten, and that car is still running. So thank God for that. We did get my buddy Al Perkins, who was such a blessing to us during this time, put our name in at the Musicians Union. And then another buddy of mine did that too, and I was told to contact Dave Pomeroy. And so the Musicians Union helped us. Music Cares helped us. In fact, like I had said earlier, I was supposed to play the benefit with Dave Perkins, and it was going to be a fundraiser for Music Cares, and it turned out being a flood relief benefit for everybody. And I had a gig in Louisville that day actually, and quick drove back home and just made it in time to play with Dave for it. And so I was, being a part of that had a real, real special. It was a special thing for me. So Music Cares was a blessing to us. I would like to say that the whole time, had I not really believed that God's a good God all the time, and that He says in His Word that He knows the plans that He has for us, and they are plans for good and prosperity. And had I ever let go of that and looked at our circumstances, I may not have made it through this whole thing, And so, I'd like to thank God and Music Cares and all the people that seem to come out of the woodwork to help us.
Hi, I'm Craig Krampf. I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of the Nashville Musicians Association. And shortly after the flood, I mean, it became very apparent to us that with the number of people that the flood affected, that a lot of musicians were included in those numbers. Word started coming back to us on the Monday and Tuesday after the flood that the Grand Ole Opry was underwater, that the Nashville Symphony, the Schoomer Horn, was underwater, and of course the devastation here at Soundcheck, which I guess affected over 600 musicians. So we knew we had to do something. So within that week, we actually decided that we were going to set up a flood relief fund, and we put together a quick board, we organized it, and a week after the flood, we were up on PayPal ready to accept donations. It was incredibly heartwarming how, you know, a week or so later, $5 would come in from Sweden and $10 from Nova Scotia, and various musicians, unions around, part of the AFM around America started holding benefits and started sending some incredible donations. It was just amazing how Nashville came together, how various people formed things like Retune Nashville. Maybe when we're younger, some of us tend to think, well, somebody's got to do something, and maybe when you get a little older, you know, Sherry and the people at Retune Nashville just realized maybe we're supposed to try to help, and their help has been amazing. We were able to help so many musicians. We were able to issue checks with our donations, and also various equipment manufacturers came together, and we were able to give out some instruments and various items of equipment. Here we are a year later, and as you hear on, you know, some of these videos, that people are still having a lot of problems and are still in the period of recovery. That's why the upcoming Retune Nashville auction is still so important. Sometimes news tends to go on the back burner, and people tend to forget that so many people have not fully recovered. So, you know, donations are still an important thing, still trying to help people. And on a personal level, and what Dave Pomeroy, our president over at the union, has also experienced, when we're able to give a check to a musician who lost so much and maybe some musical gear, there are people who have had tears streaming down their cheeks, you know, just in gratitude, so grateful that somebody is willing to help, and somebody is trying to get them back on their feet and get some of the tools they need again to make a living and take care of their families. So thank you to Retune Nashville. Thank you to Nashville for the spirit of love and community that we have shown the rest of the world. And thank you to everybody who's made a donation to try to help.